very front page of the packet that I said I stapled it in the wrong order. So it's only one page, 4 problems, 5.1. But we already know this stuff. We already know that if we've got a rational function, that there's going to be a problem in the domain wherever we have the bottom, the denominator equal to 0. Okay, and the reason that we're going over this again right now is because 8.5 adds on to this and then some. So we're just reviewing over the fact that this is what happens. So if I have x minus 3 over 2x plus 5, if 2x plus 5 is equal to 0, then that means that when I solve this, negative 5 over 2 is going to be a problem in my domain. And this is what your domain would look like. So if this is my problem right here, then x minus 7 cannot be equal to 0. So I'm solving and figuring out, well, what makes it equal to 0? Well, if x is equal to 7, then that makes it equal to 0. So I would say, okay, well, my domain is equal to all x's such that x is a real number and x is not 7. It's the only thing that's going to make my denominator equal to 0. You cannot divide by 0. And if you wrote that in interval notation, you would say, I'm good from negative infinity to 7, and then I'm good again from 7 to infinity. Okay. On this part right here, and we're just worried about this denominator, that denominator cannot be equal to 0. So when we solve that, x cannot be equal to negative 3. That's where our problem is going to be. So we're not really worried about the numerator right now. We just are worried about what makes that denominator equal to 0. So all x's such that x is real and x is not negative 3. That's where our problem is. If I were to write that in interval notation, I'm good from negative infinity. And when you're doing the interval notation, you always go from the smallest to the biggest. So we're good from negative infinity all the way to negative 3. And then we're good again from negative 3 to infinity. Okay. Turned it up a notch here because it's not as easy. We know that x squared plus x minus 6 cannot be equal to 0. How do we solve that though? Yes, by doing what? You could use the quad program because the whole purpose of the quad program is to find zeros, right? So that will tell you what it's not equal to. So yes, you could use the quad program. Okay, I would be a bad math teacher if I didn't also show you how to do it the long way. But when you factor it, you're thinking about what multiplies the negative 6 and adds to 1. Well, those numbers would be negative 2 and positive 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, but negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So we would look at, well, what makes those equal to 0? And these are the answers your calculator would give you. The calculator would say, well, your zeros are going to be 2 and negative 3. That's what the quad program would give you. And so you would go, okay, well, my domain is all x's such that x is real and x is not 2 or negative 3. If you're doing interval notation, negative infinity. Negative 3 comes first, so you would list that one first. Then you're good from negative 3 to 2. There's no problems from negative 3 to 2. And then there's no problems from 2 to infinity. Same thing on this one. We're looking for what makes this thing equal to 0 because that's where we have a problem. So at this point, you could absolutely use the quad program and figure out where's your problem. Or you could factor it and say what multiplies to negative 4 and adds to 3. That's gonna be x plus 4, x minus 1. 4 times -1 is -4. 4 minus 3, 3. That's why that works. So you could go, okay, x plus 4 can equal 0, x minus 1 can equal 0. So x can't be -4 and x can't be 1. And those are what you would get with the quad program. Okay, same thing. So the domain would be all x's such that x is real and x is not -4 or 1. We're good from -infinity to -4. Then we're good again from -4 to 1. Then we're good again from 1 to infinity. But that would be the answers to that. Okay, so I do think we covered that, all that stuff before, but I do think you need to hear it again before we start 8.5. So 8.5 is going to take the whole class period. All right, so we will only cover 8.5 next time. Then next week we'll cover 8.6 and we'll do a test review. And we'll be ready to go on to the last section of the stuff. Last for test 4.